Today, we're diving into the wild world of Brute with one of the most tough new kids on the block, TuffNut. And we got Jorge, a passionate local who swings big and nuts hard. I'm Will, and
I'm
today
Jorge.
we have Jorge. So, as you can see, the rest of the Tunic Counter Gamers are elsewhere. Thank you, Jorge, for stepping up and tunicking up. Can we use that as a verb?
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, all the rules are just different, right? So, before we go into the show, I usually cover what we learned since last week, but in this case, I've been at the beach and was not able to play this last week, so I learned rest is always welcome, and it helps to rest to get your game going stronger. So I'm ready to rock out with some Pleiades tomorrow. Hopefully, crack this tough nut that Jorge's going to kind of kindly go over because I know you've been passionate about this character for a long time. Now, before we get into tough nut and your actual list, I always like to ask about a person's origin story. How did you start in Flesh and Blood? How long have you been playing?
Yeah, I started because I was watching a lot of Commander videos, Commander at Home and stuff like that, and some of the guys from the Three Floating podcast or YouTube channel showed up,
Yeah.
and I kind of went over to their channel, saw Josh Lee Kwai playing against Jacob Scott Thomas Bertrand, and I was interested in the game from then. Started playing Rosetta pre-release was my first time playing the game in person. Before that, I played a little bit on Felt Table, but that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a good year so far. Started playing on KO with the Armory deck, upgraded it, and I've been playing Brute since. Taking a brief moment to play Warrior, and then some Gravy this last set.
Yeah. Well, we can forgive you for the gravy jump. Everyone has to jump on a different ship every now and then, right?
Hey, Gravy's a better Brute, man, or at least at the time. Maybe one of these Brutes is better now. I think old KO,
Yeah.
might be the best Brute, but we'll have to see how the meta shapes up.
Yeah, definitely. And there's always that Rhino armor deck coming out like in December, so it's relatively close by.
Yeah.
So, you kind of briefly covered your history with Brute Heroes. What gravitated you to KO initially? Like, why KO over all the other heroes?
Well, certainly price point was a big factor. At the time, I was living alone, covering all my bills on my own. So I was like, okay, Brute's a little cheaper right now. Also, just it was interesting, being able to kind of play towards that randomness, play towards the variance that's included with Brute.
Yeah.
I love gambling, so why not play some gambling games?
Right. I mean, I always said rolling scabskins is one hell of a drug, and the worst Brute enemy is ourselves, right?
Always.
So always. So it's not how many times an opponent beat us; it's how many times we beat ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So
the amount of times I've died to Beast Within triggers is more than I'd like to admit.
I remember killing you with the Beast Within trigger too. I was like, oh, that just kills you right there. Yeah, that's always fun. So why TuffNut? What grabbed your attention with TuffNut when it first dropped or when it was first announced?
When it first announced, immediately everybody's like, rock. We're swinging rock. And at the time, I had just traded Travis for Marvel Rock. So I was like, okay, cool. I guess I actually play with this card. Let's go. That's really the main reason. I just want to be able to swing rock. Also, we haven't had a truly defensive Brute so far.
Yep.
And I feel like TuffNut plays really well into the kind of clash mechanics. So that's always been pretty interesting.
Yeah, I know Reiner's kind of mid-range, so he's not really typically defensive. He does have some defensive swings, but again, playing a defensive Reiner deck doesn't go to his drawing and discarding sixes, because if you draw and discard a D-react or those lower attack powers, then you're kind of against his game plan. So I see how TuffNut really does go ahead and sets that train rolling, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I guess what we could do is just jump right into your deck, and we're going to take a crack at TuffNut. This is a Flesh and Blood first glance at the Super Slam hero. We're going to do a series of these before we jump back into our deep dive of the other classes specifically. But with the new set coming out, we're going to do what's topical. And TuffNut is going to be the big one. So for those that are listening, TuffNut is the bumbling Hulkster, right? It's an instant tap, pitch the top card of your deck. If it has 6 or more power, the crowd cheers you. Whenever the crowd cheers you, create a toughness token. Now, Jorge, what do you think about this ability in itself? The biggest thing is a 3 intellect, so you have a 3-card hand. Is that really as much of a detriment as people think?
It can be, absolutely. Yeah, his ability is mainly just there to make up for the fact that your most common game plan is going to be block with 3 cards, pitch a card, swing my weapon. In this case, rock with this list. The 3 intellect can be quite a bit bad for you, especially if you're on the play, right? If you're going second, you may not have the ability to block out the entire attack if it's a go tall hero like a guardian or a ranger. But you do get the ability to pitch off the top of the deck to swing things like rock, where you need to have an empty hand to begin with.
And I can't help but see that. I know a lot of people said, "Oh, rock, you got to have the empty hand, no cards in hand, swing it, cost 3 to attack." But a lot of the people don't realize that there's this little sentence at the very end: damage that would be dealt by rock can't be prevented. Right? Has that ever come up yet when you're using rock and toughness ability? I mean, I know that's kind of an anti-prism tech, but like, there's not a lot of prisms floating around in our, no pun intended, but not a lot of prisms floating around in our local meta right now.
Yeah, I played a game on Talishar where I did end up forcing Prism to block more often because rock is a breakpoint and damage can't be prevented. So if they block for 6, they're going to lose all their flipped figments, all their angels. So they have to make sure that they block out entirely when you're swinging rock at them.
That's great. And you said you got the Marvel version, so I'm a little jealous. I saw Travis having that, and I was like, man, what a great trade. All right, so let's cover the rest of your basic brute package here. I see you got your Apex Bone Breakers. That's a classic. All right. Why not the new one? The one that's like T-Rex.
Yeah, the Tyrannical Rex. That one's okay. It's a good card, don't get me wrong. I think it functions better in more aggressive brutes, so mainly, OGKO. Bonebreaker is good when you have a lot of 6s and when you can block with them efficiently, because you get that extra might to give you that extra value on your offensive portion of your turn cycle. And it's temper 2. It's the same as Tyrannical Rex. I just don't find myself using Tyrannical Rex very often in TuffNut. Very few times do I have enough resources to sink an extra resource in and then swing rock, especially if I'm playing into more go tall heroes, which is what we typically see in our metagame, at least locally.
All right, and then, of course, this Final Spring Tunic. I'm assuming this is for that extra Tunic counter. I mean, you certainly didn't add this in because, you're coming on the Tunic Counter Gamers podcast here. This isn't for us, right?
Oh, man, he knows the sauce. No. A lot of your 6s are going to be yellows. A lot of the resource base is yellows, right? We're not really running that many reds in the list in the first place because we want to be pitching those off the top of the deck with TuffNut's ability and get the extra, crowd cheers you and get that toughness token.
Right.
But unfortunately, because they're yellows and rock needs 3, we do use the Spring Tunic to get that extra resource when we need it.
So if this helps mitigate those misses when you flip over the top and it's a yellow, you could just go ahead and use the Tunic, swing rock, and still have a good turn that time. Okay.
Right, and sometimes you already have a Vigor token, and you end up pitching a red off the top. It's happened to me a few times. So I do still end up having 3 resources because of Tunic.
Okay, excellent. And I know we're going to talk about the Vigor going on later and how you generate that, how important that is. So we already talked about rock again and scab skins, right? My favorite card. I don't know if it's your favorite card. This is a Brute's love or hate relationship with this card. How often are you actually using it for the extra action points versus just using it for the temp or the battle worn block 2, block 1 value?
In TuffNut, you're not really rolling scouts very often. It does help you in hands where you can't convert all 3 cards, but it's not very often that you're going to be rolling scabs. You'd rather defend with cards and just end up with, either I'm swinging 2 cards, blocking with 1, or blocking with all 3 and swinging rock. That's kind of the main game plan. Every once in a while, you do end up forcing them to block with their whole hand or block with 3 and then arsenal their last card, and you do need to convert. So I do end up rolling scabs at least 1 every 2 to 3 games. So it's not too bad, but the temper or the battle worn is obviously very, very important. There's not a lot of legs that can block for a whole bunch. Scalp skins is kind of up there with that.
Yeah, I know the refrigerator or the fridge on most brutes, they just block a lot of life, or they actually add a lot to the life, or, so that's just 3 points right there. And of course, no need to mention a Sailing Flesh Blag. You're already a defensive hero, and now you got defensive Intimidate on top of that. Listen to all the other podcasts when I extol the virtues of this card. But let's hear you extol the virtues of Scaling Flesh Blag.
I mean, there's so many different things. Into Warriors, you can stifle them on a second swing if you're a dual wielder or even a Dawnblade Dory. Sometimes they want to, get an on hit through, and you can just force them on their second swing to not be able to get that extra attack reaction. Into ninjas, you can intimidate their kind of glue piece on their chain, right? Sometimes they need to have that second or third chain to be a 0 for 1 or a 0 for 2 or something.
Yeah.
And intimidating away makes it so that they actually lose a lot more value. And of course, into some of the other go wide decks, like other brutes on their bloodrush turn, if you flesh bag away their go again, you can save 6, 7, 8 value instead of just the 2 block value you're getting out of flesh bag.
I mean, how many times does it come down to a game of brute chicken where I'm not using my scowling flesh bag first, and whoever does generally has a back foot later on in the match, right? If the other person holds it out. So yeah, I could definitely see how a scowling flesh bag could ruin anyone's day. So excellent. And no, I see you have a full 80 here, of course, but your main deck is 54 cards. We're going to talk about some of these cards, and then we're going to talk about your inventory. The big thing I noticed first is these are a lot of new cards here. I only see really, like, of course, the Wrecker Romp, right? And then the Swing Bigs, and we'll cover this more in detail. But are most of the Agile Windup? But most of these cards seem to be coming from the new set. Is that correct?
Yeah, a lot of 2 for 8s came out with Super Slam, and there's some additional go again attacks with the Jaws of Victory. And then, like I said, we're playing towards being able to get that crowd cheers you every turn. So having the 6 powers in your deck is going to be very important. So things like Reckless Stampede, clashing and dealing that additional damage helps out a lot there as well. And, like I said, there's moments where you can't really convert your whole hand. So being able to send a 2 for 8 and then arsenaling your last card is a good strategy, right? It's a good way to get maybe an important card into your arsenal. There are some cards that we can get go again later on with Jaws of Victory again or the Buck Wilds. So I like running at least the 2 for 8 reds. They're just really good value.
Yeah, I mean, Swing Bigs was the classic big. That's a brute card right there. If you ever seen it, and the only downside is, if they block it out or it doesn't hit, they get a quicken token. But usually, if they have to block out the Swing Big, right, they don't have any ways to use that quicken token effectively. And you already mentioned it with the Show of Strength. That's our new Super Slam version of Swing Big. I was drooling like a damn brute when I saw this card come out. And it's like, this gets -1 for each card with 6 or more power defending it. It's a 2 for 8, blocks for 3. I mean, and it's a generic brute action attack. I mean, this goes in almost every brute deck, right?
Oh, 100%. So I obviously only have one playset of this card.
Yeah.
So it's sitting currently in my KO deck. So I'll be proxying it in my TuffNut deck when I play in person. Because it's expensive. It's a great card. 2 for 8s are always going to be really good, especially in a deck where you're running a higher density of yellows. A lot of the times you can block with 2 cards, or if you already have this in Arsenal, block with 3. Activate TuffNut, you hit a yellow off the top, you don't have a Tunic up, so you just end up sending, a 2 for 8, Show of Strength, Swing Big, Reckless Stampede, they're all great.
And so I guess, I have to ask now, this is not anywhere we mentioned, but you already said Show of Strength is expensive? What's the price on it, man?
Last time I checked, it was too much.
I could see that because Swing Big was like $25 for the longest time, and then Show of Strength is a new hotness. So I can only imagine it's probably already upwards of 25 plus.
Okay, so it's gone down. It's only $10 right now.
Okay. So you hear it from Jorge.
$15, $20. Cold flows are $50.
Oh man. All right. So for those players out there, you heard it from Jorge. Crack your 401k. Go ahead and get all these. Stonks are going to go. No, this is not financial advice. I'm just joking. Don't do that. So, Jaws of Victory, you also mentioned this with your Buck Wild and Jaws of Victory. This is typically your go again, your chain extender. Still good power to 2 for 6, 3 block. How often do you have less life than the opposing hero? Is that something you play toward, or is it just something you get if it naturally happens?
No, you're actually, because you only have 3 cards, especially against go wide decks, a lot of the times you will be at a lower life total. But also, every time I see Jaws of Victory in my hand, my immediate thought is, I'm not going to block this turn. I'm going to send Jaws of Victory into another attack. So I usually end up taking quite a bit of damage going below my opponent. And if they don't actually manage to get me below, then I'll usually just end up finding a way to put this in the arsenal or just pitching it to something else.
Very cool. Okay, and then it comes back on second cycle if you go that long, since you are a defensive deck.
Right.
And I noticed you mentioned the Reckless Stampede earlier. You mentioned Clash, and I love this mechanic with the Brute class. It's something they introduced with Super Slam, where we've only seen it really in like Guardian, mostly Victor before. But this seems like almost a better version of Reckless Swing, because it's a 0 block, but you got so many toughness tokens. You're blocking with it, and if you win the Clash, you deal 1 damage to the target hero or the opposing hero. It seems like, how often do you lose a Clash if your deck is full of 5s, 6s, 7s, and 8s?
Not very often, yeah. It's into again those go wide decks. This is really good. If you have that toughness token, usually their first attack is going to be just a 0 for 3. If it's like a ninja, so blocking with 3 toughness with a Reckless Stampede and dealing that extra damage can be really useful. Sometimes they do go right down to that range where now they have to block on your next turn cycle. So this card, I mean, it's a 1 damage on defense is always going to be good. There's never a moment where dealing that extra bit, scaring your opponent a little bit, isn't useful for you.
I mean, and I gotta be honest with you, it's interactable 1 damage. Like, unless they discard Shelter of the Storm or something like that, they're pretty much dead. And they have to play with this fear in mind, because they play with the Reckless Swing in mind, and that's a D-react. I noticed you don't have them here, but you got this Reckless Stampede instead. So you get down to 1 life, you're within touching distance of TuffNut, right? And that seems something pretty good. I know if I was the opponent in sitting across from TuffNut, I would definitely be counting how many Reckless Stampedes I've seen in your graveyard, or how many I've seen in the pitch stack going to second cycle. It's something that, against a TuffNut player, you might want to keep in mind, because this can lay you out and get you within that lethal range, and you're not planning on it. So I see like a lot of your cards are the yellow-blue base. Like, you're absolutely 100% correct. Not a lot of reds. You got 12 in here as far as the main deck goes. Most of this is actually yellows and blues. I mean, do you want to go in order here? You got Crowd Goes Wild. That's 3 for 6, 3 block. If you've been cheered this turn, this costs 3 less to play. I mean, it seems pretty dang good, dude. It seems like it's almost a 0 for 6.
Yeah, there are moments where I've had an agility token out from discarding a agile windup. For a while, I was running agile windup yellow in the list for that particular reason. Because sometimes, you can just go Crowd Goes Wild for free into a rock swing just by activating TuffNut once. Really, it's just a good 3 for 6. It's a yellow 6 that blocks 3. That's really the reason it's in the deck. The fact that it can swing for free sometimes just means that if this is sitting in your arsenal again, or you have the choice between this and another 2 for 6. Sometimes you end up pitching a red off the top, and in that case, you can send something like Crowd Goes Wild for free, essentially turning that red into a yellow for that particular turn.
Yeah, excellent. All right, Disarm, another Clash mechanic. Actually, I'm sorry, this is not the Clash card I was thinking of.
Yeah, this is if it has 6 or more block value. Yeah, these are really good in TuffNut.
Yeah, I remember someone playing this against me in the sealed pre-release, and I gotta say, it's really, I would say, nut breaking here, So, how often do you use this for defense versus swinging with it, or do you always save this for the defensive factor?
I have had games where this ends up in like my opening hand, and I don't want to arsenal it. This is a terrible arsenal target. Never want to put Disarm or Disperse in my arsenal, so I have swung with it a few times. However, on defense, this is an amazing card. It's kind of a mini flashback, right? It serves that same function as long as you have 6 or more defense value on this. It serves that function of that card is no longer in play for this turn cycle. It combos with cards like Never Give Up, or if you have a lot of toughness tokens already. Currently, my list is not running a lot of ways to make 2, 3, 4 toughness in a turn. Before, I was running some more of those cards. There's a blue in particular that makes 3 toughness tokens. I was running more of those, and in that case, Disarm was even better. But I found that with cards like Never Give Up and Numbskull Charm, as well as Good-Natured Brutality, I can end up blocking with Disarm and getting its effect pretty regularly.
Okay. So, do you generally try to, let's say you draw this a little early, right? It's not arsenal target. do you ever IP yourself to try to get this effect off, or at this case, you just missed that, that opportunity, and you don't want to hold this too long because you only have a 3 card hand, so you just block with it anyways and say, oh well, there's that was the next two, or what? Do you ever try to IP yourself to get the advantage, or never?
Because of the nature of the way that we want to play a rock deck, I actually don't mind paying this. It's not a matter of like cycling through our deck as much as possible. It's a matter of just being able to empty our hand out when we need to, so that we can swing rock or
Okay.
just end a good attack.
Very good. And I have to ask you, man. I said this before when I first saw your deck. I did not think about pitting a Never Give Up. This is that revered block card that kind of cycles itself. Like, so this is a wordy card, but it's like instant pay 2 resources, put this on the bottom of your deck. Target defending action card gets +3 block while on this chain link. Activate this only while it's in your graveyard. You have less life than each other hero, and you've been cheered this turn. So it's kind of like instant you play from the graveyard, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm interested because so you block with this the first time, it goes to the graveyard, and then you use this in the future to add more to. Does this? This is the disarm target you were talking about, and the disperse target. This is a way to get those
Yeah.
defensive factors up. Okay.
Yeah. No. So what it does is there's a few cards in the list that Never Give Up helps out a lot. If you're going into really, really tall decks, so like Pleiades or Goliath, which we both know there's a lot of them at our locals, it can add a lot of block value to No Hero Stands Alone and Good Natured Brutality. Specifically, Good Natured Brutality, if it's you have no cards in hand, it cheers you. So then you can activate Never Gives Up. So usually I'll end up activating TuffNut, blocking with my hand, and then paying the resources that I got off of activating TuffNut to Never Give Up, so that my Good Natured Brutality is blocking for 9 plus whatever other cards I'm blocking with. Into some of the good wide decks, into KO specifically, it's really good in terms of I can block with 2 cards at the start, or block with 1 card in the first chain link, ignore the claw, block the second one. Usually it's going to be a 2 for 8 as their third chain link, with Good Natured Brutality, and pay into it with Never Give Up to make it a 9 block, to fully snuff out something like a Swing Big.
Wow. All right, and then you're happy with that Quicken token. So with all your 2 for 8s.
Yeah, and that also helps with Numbskull Charm, right? I'm running 3 Numbskull Charm currently, just because it has TuffNut on the art. This isn't meant to be a super hyper competitive list or anything. I'm not taking this in an event. It's just to play at locals. So I do want to have all the TuffNut cards on there, and Never Gives Up make it so that I can play tough Numbskull Charm on defense, activate Never Give Up, and give something that extra 3 block value, because I'm cheering. I am pitching the top card of the deck, so that fulfills both things that I need to be able to actually play Never Gives Up in terms of paying its cost.
Yep. And I mean, with as many Pleiades, Goliath flowing out there, the confidence or might token destruction is not nothing, I should say, right? I mean, it
Absolutely.
probably does come in handy sometimes. And I know you said this isn't a competitive list, but I gotta say, man, as a foundational TuffNut list, I think this is checking all the right boxes for someone to actually take inspiration from your list and kind of curtail it to their meta and actually go to an event with it and say, man, that Jorge guy, he freaking knew. Right? He knew. So I can see this as being a really good canvas for a lot of people exploring, because I see a lot of the like Super Slam cards being utilized to a full effect here. All right, so we got 2 smash ups, a tough and vigorous smash up. These are both clash cards. This is the one I was thinking about earlier when I mentioned it. But this is the winner on tough smash up. This is a 3/4/6. It's yellow pitch, 3 block. When this defense clash with attacking hero, the winner creates a toughness token, and then you can pit the revealed card on the bottom of its owner's deck. Vigorous is the winner creates a vigor token. So tough smash up versus vigorous smash up makes sense. It's in the name what token it creates. So this is how you get your vigor train rolling, and then this is how you also get a couple toughness tokens. How important are these cards in your game plan?
Yeah, so the toughness token and the vigor tokens are kind of added benefits in my eyes. What I like is the security of knowing what's on top of my deck.
Okay.
The fact that I can bottom it if, let's say, for example, I don't have a Tunic Counter, right? I already used it a previous turn. I'm not quite at 3 yet. and I see that I have a red on top, I can bottom that red, try to get a different card off the top with Toughnut's ability. That's the reason I'm running the smash ups in this deck. The vigor is an added benefit. Obviously, if I win the clash, I get that vigor, and then I can decide, okay, cool, I have a yellow on top. I don't have a tunic up, but I do get this vigor, so I can keep this yellow on top. Make sure I have 3 resources to swing rock.
I'm going to forgive a little bit of the gravy bones, like a little bit of gravy bones, little charm here, right? I can see a little bit like compass work here. Right, is all I'm saying. Where you want to manipulate the top of your deck, but it makes
I have
sense.
played a lot of gravy. I'm used to being able to go, okay, cool. Look at the top of my deck real quick and decide what my playline's gonna be. Yeah, no, this is really it really does function like a compass. Vigorous Mashup definitely is the best one because you do get to have more options if you do see yellow off the top. The tough smash up is fine. It does mean that sometimes I do have 2 or 3 toughness going into a turn, and I can naturally activate cards like Disarm and Disperse. But it's like I said, my main reason for having this in the deck really is just to manipulate the top of my deck, make sure that I can swing rock every turn.
That makes sense. All right, and the vigor token's an extra benefit, but really it's for the revealed card and choosing to put it on the bottom, furthering your game plan. Okay, and of course you mentioned it earlier: agile wind up, buck wild. Both not in yellow, so they're 5 power. How impactful is that? I know this discard crate and agility tokens, pretty helpful, and it is a blue pitch.
Yeah, the blues in general are kind of a tough decision with a lot of the brutes right now. There's so many good blues coming out of Super Slam. There's energetic impact. There's all the smash ups. You have your old wind ups. You have your utility blues like smashing something. I forgot what the name of the card is. The one that they have to reveal a discard a card unless they reveal a card with power.
Right.
And the damage
like
dealt.
Backhand or something like that, right?
No, that's the one that deals 1 damage if you reveal it off a clash. Also, again, a great utility blue. There's just a lot of options. I like agile windup just because sometimes I can discard it at the end of my opponent's turn. And like I said, it helps convert some hands where I end up with an agile windup and ascendable attack plus enough resources to swing rock. So having that extra go again is nice. It's also just kind of I played a lot of KO. I'm used to having that go again. So in order to convert hands, I think agile windup is pretty nice. Buck wild, same reason, right? I can usually send it, get go again, pitching a yellow, and then activating TuffNut. So it's a nice card to have. There are some merits to running different blues as well. Honestly, my blue base is kind of where I'm tweaking the list the most, so I'm not set on running agile windup or buck wild. But they are kind of the first includes that I thought of when I started looking through what I was going to do with my blue base.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like TuffNut for some of the chain extenders, Buckwall, Jaws of Victory is definitely that because it's very easy to get off, 2 card 8, 2 card 6, or even a 3 card 5, and then go again with the 2 card 8. Seems pretty good.
Right.
Now you mentioned the blue disperse. This is the blue version of the disarm card, except when this defends, it takes a card from their arsenal and puts it on the bottom of their deck, whereas disarm, the yellow pitch, was take a card from their hand and put it on the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, into some of those go wide decks, right? Yeah. They're usually gonna try to arsenal their chain ender from a previous turn. Same with the ninjas, right? They're usually gonna have either like a codex in there or some kind of other disrupting, kind of chain ender. So disperse helps out into those matchups. If you block with this first, and you have those toughness tokens, or like I said, you activate it with never give up. You can force them to have to change mid-chain what they're gonna do and make decisions on the fly. And usually, at least locally, right, people are going to sit down and tank for a little bit when that happens. Yeah. So it's a good way to slow down the game a little bit, make them think about what their next attack is going to be. I've had this go off on Talishar where the person ends up just going, okay, cool, I'm going to pass now. I can't do anything else.
Nice.
And even into KO, it's great. On a bloodrush turn, usually they'll have a go again attack arsenaled. If they don't, or it's something like a pulping where they want to send this like second or third chain link, it's a good way to screw them up a little bit on a blood rush turn.
Yeah. Makes sense. And it is Arsenal hate. We kind of need that disruption a little bit, you know. And Brute's really gotten a lot more Arsenal or, you know, like with sim packing. I noticed it wasn't in here, so I'll talk to you about that in a second. But
Yeah.
the disperse, there's Arsenal options or Arsenal targets for this. So it's good to see you got a little bit of that disruption. Energetic impact. I mean, it kind of goes through the game plan. You were mentioning this. This is, again, a blue pitch, 3 cost. When this defends together with a card with 6 or more power, create a vigor token. So another way to get your vigor train going. 5 power, 3 block. And since you're usually blocking with your 3 cards, this makes sense that you kind of want to use this in conjunction to, you know, with another card to get the vigor produced. Is that kind of how you're using it?
Yeah, a lot of the Pleiades I've been facing on Talishar, energetic impact plus something like good natured brutality, or no hero stands alone, or even think hide hunter means that I can block for 6, make a vigor, swing rock right after by pitching it off the top of the deck. It's absolutely just really just there for the vigor generation. It works very well with Apex Bone Rigger as well, right? It means I can block with energetic impact, a 6 power, 3 block, and Bone Breaker for what is that, 8, and then swing 8 more on offense. So it's 16 value on the turn cycle with rock.
Yeah. Dang, crazy. And that's not even including your toughness tokens that you generated too, so you might even be more than that.
Right, exactly. It's not even including toughness tokens and that extra third card, right?
Yeah. Okay, and so I see tough smash up, vigorous smash up in the blue variety came back. Again, clash mechanic kind of producing what you need to do. And then wind up the crowd. This is a newer card from the Revered Brute Action Attack. I really like this. It's super rare. It's a 3 cost blue pitch card. Instant discard this, create a toughness and a vigor token. So that's 4 ways I see you generating vigor easily so far. Unless I lost count. And that's like between all the things. So all right.
Yeah, that's 12 cards that generate vigor, yeah.
Wow. And then again, I have to ask, would you ever use this to swing with? Like, I mean, let's say, I know it's to close out the game, but let's say, well, do you always use this to kind of block or discard, instant discard, or sometimes would you swing it?
Option. No, I mean it's a blue 6, right? So if you pitch it off the top, you're getting your full resources for rock and a cheering.
Yeah.
Honestly, the discard option on this is the best part of the card, though.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, if you're going first, you can discard this, make your toughness and your vigor, activate TuffNut to get that extra toughness token, get the cheer. So it empties your hand out for the first turn to help try to swing rock. You might not always be able to swing rock turn 1.
Yeah.
But it's a good way to empty out your hand turn 1, and then in other cases, it's very easy to get out of your hand and gets a lot of value out of doing so. So really, it's there for the discard. Occasionally, it'll end up being pitched because it's TuffNut.
And of course, Wrecker Rump. Can't go wrong with the classic, man.
It's a blue 6, right? The only blue 6 that all the brutes can play. So 100% going to be in every brute deck.
Yeah, and it's a 3 block too. I mean, still to this day, one of the stronger brute cards, and it's a common, right? So.
Right.
Yeah. All right, well, that's your main board, and I can see what you mean by there is some varieties you could probably splice in for the, you know, changing the blue count.
Yes, actually, one of the some changes that I'm thinking about making currently is maybe reducing some of those blues. I don't find myself needing to have this many blues all the time, so maybe bringing in cards like Song of Sinew. Some of those, like you said, the ones that if you reveal this off a clash, deal 1 damage, just to get that extra value, and maybe running some of those cards to generate more toughness tokens. There's also the option of, I forget what the card is called. There's a card that you can play it. When you play it, your next attack this turn gets +1 for each toughness token you have, and then it makes another toughness token. So you can end up swinging rock for like 12 on it's like a 2-card 12. Or 2-card 11 sometimes. It's really good. So I have considered changing my list a little bit towards that. But currently the list is working fine. So we'll see how it goes at Armory for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll make some tweaks then.
All right, and let's talk about your inventory. You got 21 in the sideboard here as different options go. Let's talk about your Null Rune gloves, Skull Horn, and Spell Fray gloves. Why Spell Fray and why Null Rune? Why not choose one over the other?
Honestly, I think that might just be a misclick. I think it's supposed to. Yeah,
Oh,
this is
man.
supposed to be.
Not to call you out, brother. I'm so sorry. Ignore this, guys.
Yeah, no, this is supposed to be the Fluffray leggings. Absolutely.
Okay.
Um, no, there's a lot of wizards in our meta game. I feel like I end up facing at least one wizard every week. Before it was a Cilio being piloted by some of the guys going up to the calling. Now it's like I feel like I see a lot of Verdants, there is a Kano player running around, and I think some people are still playing Acilio. So
Yeah.
I like having AB. Brutes do pretty well with AB. We have a lot of blues, a lot of options for extra resources.
Yeah.
So I don't mind running AB3 in this list, and the Spell Void one just to prevent that extra combo.
Gotcha. And so I see in the inventory you have two varieties of Buck Wilds. Red and yellow made it here. Is this something you would consider playing if you need to go wide? Like, when would you substitute the Buck Wilds?
Yeah, into the setup decks for sure. So some of those Rune Blades, some of those Wizards as well. Sometimes they just have cards that don't block, and I want to push damage as quickly as possible. Right, I don't want to go into a long game versus Verdance. I don't want to go into a long game versus Florian because mixed damage does hurt. Even though it's easy for us to pitch into AB, it can be hard to convert enough damage to close out a game versus those two. So really, it just comes into the setup decks. I can't really think of what other setup decks there are. I guess Gravy, it's fine.
Yeah, I can see it being in Gravy because you really need to take out those allies, and the 7 powers. You need to take out Whaler at least once, right? So
Right. There might be one Whaler, yeah. So into Gravy, we're bringing in the reds for sure. The yellows can take out something like a chum, and still give us that extra action point to swing rock straight into their face. So yeah.
All right, and Good Nature Brutality. You mentioned this several times in the actual deck when we're going over it, and you kept on mentioning it. Well, I'm surprised it's a sideboard card, not a main board card. So yeah, it's a yellow pitch, 2 cost, 6 power, 0 block. When this defends, if you have no cards in hand, it gets +6 power, and the crowd cheers you. So making a toughness token for the next defensive turn, the start of your opponent's next turn. Since when you block with this, it's already been past their start of the turn. So
yeah.
Is this just pure value, or if things go wrong, is it you're holding this for a second time where they're swinging big, or like do you block all your cards and this, like you had 2 cards left and then you block with this card and another one? Is that how do you kind of use this to get the full effect?
There's a few ways you can respond to the trigger on when this triggers when you block with it, and then activate your Never Gives Up, and get that effect, right? So you end up blocking 9 with it. So you can, if you're blocking a dominated attack, for example, this can help out a lot in terms of, you put this in front with some equipment. You have that one card in hand still. Maybe you do have something that you can discard, and then you can pitch into the Never Gives Up to get Good Nature Brutality to its 6 block value and the 3 from Never Gives Up. Also, it's just a block 6 as well, right? And into KO, for example, we run Thick Hide Hunter, Good Nature Brutality, and No Hero Stands Alone, just because they have a lot of big attacks, right? It's going to be 6 go again, 3 go again, 6 go again, or 8 go again. Or sorry, 8. So having something to block 6 is just really good. It's in the sideboard because it's not great into some of the go wide decks. Like I said, Acilio is still out there. There are people looking to play Ninja, it looks like, into this meta. We have some players that are playing Syndra and some others that are playing, God, what's her name? The one with the armory deck. Ira, sorry, yes. Some people playing Ira, so...
Dude, you got Brute on your brain? I got you, man. Who cares about those other heroes? The other Tunic Counter Gamers aren't here, so, I can say, what heroes? This is a Brute cast.
Yeah, no, this card doesn't work well into those decks, so I don't really want to have it in the main deck for that.
I got you. No Hero Stands Alone.
Yeah, same reason, right? It's a very weird card. If you've controlled the toughness, it gets +3, and then you clash. And if you win the clash, you can give something -3, so -3 power, -3 block value. So if you lose the clash, you're essentially blocking for 0. If you win the clash, you're blocking for 6. So it's kind of hit or miss, but it's one of the few cards that it's a one card 6 in terms of defense. So it's in the list again for those Go Tall decks. A lot of that in our meta right now with the Guardians. Everybody wants to play Pleiades and Lyeth, so it's going to be in the sideboard for a while.
Yeah, so how hard is it to get this off where it's like, while this is in any zone, if you control the toughness token this turn, so in order to block with this card to the fullest effect where I go the +3 defense and ambush, you have to generate a toughness token, and that's usually if you're using it to a block. It'd be on your opponent's turn. How easy is it to get that toughness token on your opponent's turn? I know you can use Toughnut's ability, and we lovingly call it nutting on your opponent's turn.
Right,
Um,
right.
I shouldn't say lovingly call it that because that's you don't want to use those words in the same sentence, right? But I mean, I guess you could. It depends who you ask. I don't know. Anyways, so like, how hard is it to get the ability off? Man, there's so many innuendos there. Anyways, Jorge, I'll let you carry on, man. My bad.
No, that's not. It's not too difficult to do. No, I mean every turn cycle you're going to try to activate TuffNut. Most of the time you're going to hit and get that toughness token. It's really not that difficult to get. A lot of the times this does end up blocking for 4, right? This is 4, and then you win the clash, and it's of course 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I mean this is a great first block, and it's really not that difficult to get those stuff. I mean, you saw we have the smash ups. We have TuffNut's ability, TuffNut's charm. So there's quite a few options there.
Yeah, and people forget that charm. I'm gonna go back to it real quick. It is an instant, so you can arsenal this, and it's effectively something you could do, on your opponent's turn. So that crowd cheering you, creating a toughness token for the next setup turn. Also pitching if case you have to play something toward your never gives up. There's a lot of hidden synergy here where it's on face value. It's not just a swing rock deck. I know we say swing rock, but it's really there's a lot of interplay here too, right?
Right, like the what ends up happening is that because you want to swing rock, you end up being very, very defensive.
Yeah.
You end up being very good at blocking and kind of manipulating exactly when you block and how you block. And No Hero Stands Alone is one of the cards that does that the best because you can decide I'm going to block 7 essentially. And in the hand where I've had a hand where I had No Hero Stands Alone and TuffNut Charm, and Never Give Up in the graveyard, and that was just insane, right? I blocked out an entire Pleiades attack with 3 cards, and then still swung rock the next turn.
You're like, man, it's like Pleiades plays crush cards a lot, and you're like, who cares, right? Crush these, right? Like,
right.
All right, and I'm glad to see that you did include the Thick-Eyed Hunter. This actually came out unhunted. I know a lot of people were on the fence about this card. I kind of like it just for the potential. I did not know anything about the new breed heroes coming out, but it's it's a yellow pitch 2 for 6 with a 6 block. When this attacks or defense, discard a random card. But that's a cost you don't have to pay if this is the last card you're either attacking with or defending with, right?
So a cost you don't care about too much if you're attacking with this first and you have an agility token out, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to empty out your hand. You want to make sure that you don't have anything else in your hand with that action point and 3 in pitch so that you can swing rock.
Yeah. So it seems like this is really good because you could effectively get a 13 attack going off on a 2 card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Roughly, is my math right? Yeah.
So it ends up being right. You pitch 1 into Thick-Eyed Hunter, discard the other. Activate TuffNut Swing Rock. Yeah. So it's a 3 card 13. Yeah.
Seems pretty good though. I get little Rhino vibes from Spider-Man here. I'm just saying. Like, I don't know if you guys do, but
it's a great art, man. I do like. Yeah, he does have a Rhino head on, right? That's what the art is.
Yeah, but he's got that brute smile too. So, anyways,
crazy, chaotic smile on his face. Yeah.
Now, spicy inclusion here. I did not think about this, but Zealous Belting Yellow. And this is a classic card. Again, there's not really a lot of classic cards here. We maybe have 3 or 4 that I've seen. But this is a yellow pitch Zealous Belting, 2 cost, 4 power, 2 block. While there is a card in your pitch zone with power greater than Zealous Belting's base power, Zealous Belting has go again. So it's a chain extender, right? Kind of like, a chain extender when you need it. Because you're always going to have a power that's kind of bigger than 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's really there for gravy. If they have Sawbones out, it can be really difficult to hit 4 specifically. So Zealous Belting was kind of the best option I saw. It also means that I can pitch any of my blues and still be able to get Zealous's effect with Go Again, because it has to be specifically greater, right? It can't be equal to the same power. So if I'm running the red, it's 5 power. I can't pitch my blues into it anymore. I'm not floating that extra resource. So if I hit a yellow, I do have to use my Tunic Counter, right? So the yellow fit the bill the most, right? It or into some of those sawbones states when I'm facing gravy, and it doesn't lose its Go Again if I pitch a blue to it.
Yeah, and I can see how the blue Zealous Belting is a little too underpowered for what you need. So the yellow's that's that perfect medium between, right below that 5 where you get that Go Again, almost guaranteed. While the blues is a little too weak for what you need it to do in the gravy matchup. So this is a pure gravy anti-tech card, correct?
Yeah. I mean, we all know that Paul loves playing gravy. I feel like I end up facing Paul at least once a week, whether it be a Tuesday or a Thursday, or Sunday armory.
Yeah.
So I want to have my gravy tech in here to be able to win that matchup.
I got you. So what I'm hearing is you want to beat Paul with flail chains in the body the size of a house, right? That's
flavor. I'm doing it, yes.
I got you. All right. So that's pretty much your deck in a nutshell. Seems like a great package to really, kind of sum up what TuffNut's all about. And ultimately, like you kind of cover this, but succinctly pit, your win condition is block out, swing rock most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it basically boils down to I'm just gonna make you try to answer rock every turn. There's gonna be turns where I'm swinging for more than 7 or 8, and I can convert my hands pretty well. And I mean, I had a game just earlier today against Dory, right, where I was at 37 while Dory was at like 22. Granted, it means I can't get the crowd to cheer me. I can't use Never Give Up. But it's fine, right? Because I can just sit in my graveyard for a while until I get to a point where, like, okay, cool, I'm not going to block out anymore. I'm going to swing rock plus a Go Again attack, deal with it now, right? Deal with 13, and still be able to threaten my life total enough to make me have to start blocking. So really it ends up being to where I play this. You can play it one of two ways. You play it where you're aggressive early, and then defensive later on, and swing rock until you beat them down with value, or the opposite way where you're defensive early, and then you beat them down with aggro later on when you're in that second turn cycle.
Okay. Seems pretty effective. So let's say, hypothetical for you, Jorge. Let's say this is a great bones of a TuffNut deck. It's a solid 80, right? But let's say our, listeners, we're a learning journey podcast, right? They want to learn and grow and journey with this TuffNut deck. What are your 3 staples that will carry over for every TuffNut deck out there? Like if you had to pick, like these cards are never to be removed because that would in essence lose a TuffNut, essence.
I'm going to give you 3 categories. 100% the smash ups are staying in the deck.
Okay.
All the smash ups, more than likely the yellows and the blues for sure. The reds you can run, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the push the point list has the red ones. It does. It's running the red tough and vigorous smash ups. But in general, you're going to run at least 6 of those, right? You're going to be 12 of those. You're going to be running the yellows and the blues for vigorous and tough smash ups. The other kind of category you're always going to be running is going to be your blue 6s. So your Wrecker Romp and your Wind Up the Crowd. Those 2 categories are always going to be in the deck. After that, depending on your kind of playstyle, right? If you're more aggressive, more defensive, your third package is going to be either your Go Again stuff, right? Your Buck Wilds. And if you want, you can run if it has 6 or more power, it has Go Again. Flex Speed.
Yeah.
If you want to go for
wild rides or your pulpings or anything like that? No.
Yeah, you can go with the draw discard package. I know that Chris, one of our locals, was running Wild Ride in his list in the sideboard. And then if you're going for the more defensive style of play, the 2 for 8s are kind of your third package of what you're going to be running in the deck.
Okay. Right. I like how you kept it into the generic category so you can actually fit in like what is effectively 60% of your deck, right? And then the,
100%.
the other 40 or 30 to 40% is the things you're playing around with right now too. So very great answer.
Most people aren't running Never Give Up, but I'm very high on this card because it means that I can run Numbskull Charm and not be too afraid of having a no block in a three card hand. So that's the tech cards are kind of the fifth aspect of it, and that's where deck building and creativity comes into play.
But I haven't seen Never Give Up in a lot of these decks yet, and I gotta say, I really like the inclusion of that in the TuffNut deck, right? Like the way you described how to play this revered block, I actually think it's played better in TuffNut than it is in Pleiades. As crazy as that sounds, but I really do think this is more of a TuffNut card, just because of the nature of what you're saying with disarm and stuff like that. I mean, I guess if you do the disarm package with Pleiades, that might be something you roll into too, but this is not a Pleiades discussion, this is a TuffNut discussion, so...
I do think the Pleiades can run Never Give Up. I think maybe even marginally better than TuffNut.
Okay.
They do get to cheer on their own turn, right? Or on defense. I believe so, at least. I'm not sure how often that happens, but I believe the Pleiades can get herself... How do you spell Pleiades?
For our audience out there, this is a Hooked on Fan thing. It's P-L-E. P-L-E-E-I-A-D-E-S. And I only know that because I misspelled it on our show notes during the set review. So no one called me out, though. I didn't ever fix it. So, timestamps for the win. So, but...
I guess whenever the crowd cheers her, she gets the confidence. I wonder how often she's getting cheered. If she gets... Because I know Lyeth, at least, he gets to get his boo very often on his opponent's turn, right, in order for his cards to block for the right amount. I'm not sure how often Pleiades gets to get cheered on her opponent's turn, but if it does happen very often, then I do see Never Give Up being a better card there. But for right now, I mean, like I said, it just makes it so that my Numbskull Charm blocks 3. It can extend the block value on some of my kind of defensive disruption with Disperse, and on those Go Tall decks, it means I can block for a little more.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly something to look at, but you're absolutely right. It does depend on how often you get cheered on your opponent's turn. And that's where I kind of thought TuffNut kind of runs it better, because, I've been looking more into the Pleiades deck more often than not, but, that's something I'll look at now, especially with this package, too. So I like that a lot. All right, so... I mean, you already covered the new cards. This is a majority of a Super Slam deck. Covers and elevates TuffNut in the majority. And is there anything that's not on the list or in the inventory? I don't see a maybe pile down here. Oh, there is a maybe pile. There's a lot of the maybe. So,
man, I've been spending so much time thinking about TuffNut. Like, I'll be sitting at work, and I will be just typing away at some email, and I'll be like, wait a minute. Like, I can point to you. Let's see, Clash of Agility, right? Originally, I wasn't thinking about Clash of Agility, then I was like, oh. At the time, I was running some of those the deal 1 damage if this is revealed. What's it called? Unexpected Backhand. I was running Unexpected Backhand in the yellow and the blue, and I was like, what if I run some red Clash cards? I'm already using Clash of Might, Clash of Agility, and KO. Why not run anything TuffNut? Yeah. And so I put it in the maybe, and then I tried it on Talishard, and immediately I was like, nope, this is terrible. And just put it away.
But I do like how you did include the Boots to the Board. Now, this is in the Pleiades Armory deck. You can also get it in the gem packs, I believe, right?
Yes, I believe it shows up in the gem pack.
But this is when this defends, you may pay up to 3 resources, create that many toughness tokens, temper 2. So you're really giving up the scab skins, but Boots to the Board for the revered equipment legs is not a bad option at all.
Yeah, so this is part of a more aggressive package. If you're running those cards that give you the extra damage for every toughness token you have, and the ones that make 3-4 toughness tokens like Dig In, then running this could actually be very beneficial, because you can defend, pay the 3, whatever, get your toughness tokens, make 3 more on your turn, play the plus for every toughness, and then swing rock for like 15, 16, 18. I think I saw somebody swing it for like 18. This is something I got off of boosting Spend Dog on YouTube. He's been running a lot of TuffNut, all the brutes, but for the first little while, he's running TuffNut on Talishar. And he was running the boots plus the toughness matters cards as like the third package for the deck.
Yeah, seems really good. I see you pick kind of everything down here, just kind of keep on looking at like a lot of different unexpected backhand. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, seems pretty good. I do like this Bam Bam as a possible inclusion. Is that for your Dash IO matches up, or is?
Yeah, so originally I was thinking of Bam Bam, but I actually ended on Arc Smash is arguably better.
Yeah.
The fact that every once in a while you can destroy 3 items is very nice. It's also a good include if you're facing off against a lot of Verdants or a lot of Kano, because you can destroy their potions, right? So this is a card that I've actually considered putting in the list now, since there are like 2 Verdance players in our locals, but I'm not entirely sure about it just yet.
And I know the card you were talking about is Heroic Grit. That's where this next attack of this turn gets +1 power for each toughness token you control, create a toughness token, and then it is 0 cost buff. All right, so kind of a way to pseudo give yourself a little bit more of a taller attack. Yeah. So pretty interesting maybe list down here. A whole bunch of cards I see. And I did notice that you didn't run Smashback Elhorn. That kind of makes sense to me because it doesn't really go with your game plan. Although you get Agility and Might, it's still a miss in a list that doesn't have a lot of miss for your Clash, right?
Yeah. So, well, the issue with that is occasionally it'll be even if your opponent has a 1, it's a complete fail, right?
Yeah.
And if your opponent reveals something that actually has no attack value, right? They reveal an instant or an aura or whatever, and you reveal that, you end up tying the clash instead of winning, even if you reveal one of your lower power attacks. So it's just already too many of those cards in the deck with the charms and the blocks. Originally, with my list, when I was running the Buckwilds in the main, and I wasn't running all the 2 for 8s, where I was doing the more Go Again package, it was an okay card there because it gave me that extra extension. But for right now, I'm not running it. But it is a card that has been discussed quite a bit, especially by Tommy from the Sick Cast. I think we were talking about TuffNut for a while after round 2 on Tuesday this week, and he made that same distinction of like Smashback Elhorn could be good if you're going for more of a go wide package.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Tommy's always in the think tank, figuring things out. Even if he's not typically playing the class, he likes to know about the popular decks in the meta, so he could go better handle it or dismantle them, right? So that's just the way Tommy is. So yeah, very good. I guess the one thing is there any cards that didn't make the cut? Now I see a lot of maybes, but is there anything that was really like on the fence, or like for instance? This is not a bloodrush bellow deck. That's an obvious thing. Or it's one of the first things I would notice that you just don't have the hand size, the ability to use it effectively. Is that how it's really running? Or
I mean, bloodrush is obviously an amazing card. It's very difficult to consider bloodrush when there is a lot of disruption out there, especially now that the brutes even have disruption. Right? It was traditionally the brutes didn't have disruption. But it just doesn't really fit the game plan. You'd have to run a completely different weapon, right? You have to run the Mandible Claws. Your mana base ends up being more skewed towards blues rather than 6 power stuff for the crowd cheering. So Bloodrush isn't great. In terms of cards that I'm still on the fence about, I mean, even with the 0 to 80 list and the push the point list and the list by boosting Spend Dog, they're considering cards like Battlefront Bastion in the yellow for the extra block value into the go wide decks like ninjas. Like I said, the Arc Smash is good into the wizards to stop their items, and then you can always bring it into Puffin or Dio to try to disrupt their kind of combo turns. I'm trying to think. Song of Sinew is a good one as well, that it's still sitting kind of on the sideboard as an option. If I'm focusing more on dealing a lot of damage with rock, I like Song of Sinew a little bit more. But right now, I'm more focused on the defensive side of things, so I'm not sure that it fits the list.
That makes sense.
Iteration.
So, like right now, you're more on the defensive rock list, where you get the most value. Some little trick built into your list, but it goes back to
Mhm.
what's your win condition. So we always speak about that too. What's your win condition? Play to your win condition, and you do have these nice cards that are staples in decks that have a different win condition or a winning outlet than what you're going for. So, and that's when you probably consider that too. All right,
Yeah.
excellent. So, hardest question ever. Where's TuffNut shine and where's TuffNut struggle? Right? Like what are the decks out there? Like you mentioned aggro go wide decks. TuffNut's toughness tokens usually activate on the first attack action, right? Or the first attack. It doesn't matter about the attack action. It could be a weapon.
Mhm.
So go tall decks against TuffNut seems pretty easy to mitigate against. But how about the go wide decks? You're talking about like Katsu's coming back out. He's got a nice, good helping hand. I see him coming back out. Syndra is always going to be a meta threat. I still have yet to beat Jose's Syndra deck, right? So that bastard.
Yeah.
So like these go wide decks, even Dash IO to some extent. Like how does TuffNut handle against them?
I mean, with the list that I'm running right now, we're more of a defensive deck. Our win condition is somewhat just out value for as long as possible. So that includes the defensive value and the offensive value. Um, so it does still struggle into the go wide decks. Luckily, there's not a lot of that in our local meta game. Most people are running. We have people that are dedicated Guardian players, right? There's Austin, who only plays Jarl, right? He's been playing Jarl for months, probably like 6 months now.
Yeah, is that his name? No, I'm just joking. Austin, shout out to you, man. I always say that stupid joke. Anyways.
Yeah, and then a lot of people are running Pleiades in Lyeth right now, right? Evan, obviously, loving the Lyeth gameplay right now. Some of the guys who go to some of the bigger events are running Pleiades right now. And then we're seeing some of them bring back the Rune Blades. And in those situations, I think TuffNut does well. If the meta gets a little bit more wide, right, depending on how good KO ends up being, there could be a ninja or an assassin coming through and being part of that kind of upper echelon of the meta.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then TuffNut falls off even more. But I think currently into KO he's okay. Into the Go Tall decks he's really good. And granted, you do end up going to Fatigue a little bit more often. It's a bit more defensive with the list as I have it right now. But I might end up just going back towards that toughness build where I can block with one card and then play a couple of cards out. Vigorous Roar and the Heroic Grid and all that to make it so that I'm still converting my hand, but also swinging for more offensive value and focusing on the toughness tokens as the defensive value.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, and so go wide decks, something you're going to play around with more. Is there anything that outright he loses to, like that you noticed? Right, like is there any like 0% matchups per se? I know there's not really ever a true 0% matchup, and you can't use the February's meta analysis or even data blazing because there's not enough data to kind of accumulate this. So, is there any other decks that he is not favored into, or is it pretty much what we already mentioned?
Disruption for sure. You only have 3 cards, so if Rhinar honestly might be the worst matchup. Rhinar gets some new cards here that are Brood on Brood Hate. And Rhinar can intimidate your cards away, and if you can't block with your cards, you're losing your value on your toughness token, and they're not blocking, and you might not be able to convert your whole hand. So Rhinar might be the worst matchup. I haven't played a Rhinar yet on Talishar, but that's really the only deck I can think of that's like automatically I am, I might need to squeeze my butthole a little bit and then
right.
and figure out what to do because I haven't played the matchup yet, and I hope I don't, honestly.
No, Rhinar's unless you're Eugene, like Rhinar's such an off-meta pick, right? Like,
right.
I mean, all I said was he needed one good blue 6. I'm looking forward to playing him again.
It's so sad that he didn't get any new blue 6s in Super Slam.
Yeah,
he's a little bit of help right now. I think he's a great pick into KO. As surprising as that may sound, we saw that KO did make up a large share of the metagame for the first day of the calling over in Japan.
Yeah.
So Rhinar might actually be a pretty good meta call right now. In which case, again, the ninjas kind of struggle, and so does TuffNut. So we'll see.
Well, I mean, I know I said this is always going to be a short cast for our listeners out there. That's the
so it's what, an hour and a half?
It's like an hour 11 minutes. We spent a little time bullshitting before we got to this point. So as we're wrapping this up and closing it, last thoughts on this. Any advice for players wanting to try TuffNut? Like they're not sure, they're on the fence. Like this is your elevator pitch. You kind of sell them on TuffNut.
Yeah, if you're a new player and you're trying to get into Flesh and Blood with Super Slam, TuffNut is a great option. Brood has some of the best equipment. It's still fairly cheap. I think this whole list runs $470, $500 somewhere around there with shipping. So it's not very expensive right now. Obviously, if KO does well at the calling this weekend, that might change. But as like I said, Show of Strength I thought was going to be more expensive. It's only $10 right now. So if you're a very new player, this might be a good way to get into the game for cheap. It's a good way to learn how to block and how to attack. You have options for both. And if you're a more established player and you're looking to get on the TuffNut because you like swinging rock, you want to swing rock, you like the art on rock, or you want to try out Brood and you like Revered. I think he plays into some of the best strengths of Revered and some of the best strengths of Brood, right? You get those high value cards, the 2-for-8s, the rock value, and and you get the really nice defensive stuff from Revered. So great option for established players. And then if you're a pro player, obviously you're probably going to be playing KO. So I just say just play this in your armory and shit on some new players.
Well, I don't know. I think every new player likes the mechanics that RKO brings. That's reviled KO. Or are you talking more OG KO? Because we all knew OG KO got really. What's that?
OG KO, yeah. If I say KO, it's definitely OG KO. RKO specifically for the new KO.
Yeah. So OG KO, he's got a lot of new tools for this set. That's true. But it seems like TuffNut has ways of mitigating against that. And I know we didn't mention this, Jorge, but there's always options too for people that can't afford the swing bigs. Well, you got Old Leather and Vim, right? And that's a great addition. And it's a common card in the Super Slam set. So there are workarounds if you're interested in TuffNut and you can't afford all the cards yet. I know you said it was a $500 deck, and for Flesh and Blood, that's relatively cheap. It also, that 20% of that cost is your finals Tunic. All right, so
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you can always run a different chest piece and reduce that cost even more. Yeah, although I do think that Spring Tunic is the best, and as long as your logos allow you to proxy, you can save that money for a while. Buy it once you've bought everything else. So I think it's a great deck to start with.
And I know, again, so we don't go to 2-3 hours, and I keep Jorge here all night where his girlfriend yells at me. Shout out to Stephanie. Thank you for your patience on this.
That's okay. She's out there. I believe she's sorting through Arcana cards, or might be building a deck. I'm not entirely sure what she's doing right now, but she's probably doing one of those things.
But yeah, we didn't even talk about variations of this deck. You could probably do I'm not saying it's going to be good, but a beat chest TuffNut deck, or a pure yellow pitch romping club deck, right? So there's so many variations you could do with this, but the core cards, if you look at Jorge's list, it will be your classic, basic foundation, right? Where you can really extend out and really make it your own. So Jorge, I appreciate you sharing this list. So, I think we did a really good job at cracking TuffNut. Do you want to shout out your socials in case people want to reach out to you, or do you want to keep it silent?
No, I really only just use Discord. Yeah. I'm fairly active in the kind of Georgia Flesh and Blood Discord. Right now, mostly just with trade stuff because I'm trying to finish out my collection for Super Slam, at least for all the Brute stuff. And besides that, I'm usually in the Purple Discord. I'll occasionally answer questions there and make some commentary on some of the Brute stuff. But I don't really spend a lot of time on social media besides that. So that's really all I have.
All right. And, for our esteemed audience, you can always follow me at midnight_WI11 on Discord. And then I think that's pretty much a wrap up. So, and always keep in mind, every turn is a decision. Every decision is a story. And don't forget your damn Tunic Counter. Thanks, Jorge. All right, peace.
Thank you, man.